Hey, what is up, guys? It's Brendan here, and today we're going to be talking about the 6 best virtual terminals for small business. Now, when it comes to virtual terminals, there's a wide variety of different types of companies that do offer these services. Now, most of them are point-of-sale companies, small business credit card processing companies, and as well as just a variety of different types of industries that can service overall getting those credit cards processed in the function of a sort of virtual terminal setup. Now, it may look a little bit differently depending on which company you do decide to go with, and depending on your specific needs, as well as the potential fees that come along with processing those credit cards. So that's what we're going to be diving into again here in today's video, taking a look at the best virtual terminals. I will also leave links down below in the video description to all the companies mentioned here in today's video. Again, some of those links might be affiliate links, which is a great way to help out and support the channel. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into things. Taking a look at the number one spot we have here is Square. Now, Square is very popular for small businesses when it comes to processing credit cards. They do also have a variety of different small business software, including a virtual terminal setup. And why they're at the top spot is just because it is very easy and user-friendly to be able to get started with and to process those payments, whether you're in a variety of different types of industries, or even if you just need to process any type of payment, regardless of needing, you don't necessarily need any of their point of sale hardware, which would be, such as like a cash register or an actual processing unit. Because they also have the virtual terminal setup, you can also just attach invoices directly to that terminal, where you can manually key in the credit card details of your customers. So this really could work for a variety of different types of businesses, and Square is pretty flexible in that case because you also don't need any kind of monthly subscription fee either. So there is a free version. Now, I will mention, and this again kind of goes along the same lines for a lot of the different companies that we'll be talking about here in today's video, Square does have their pricing pretty upfront and stated. Now, not all the companies do necessarily have their direct fees available, and the fees may also vary depending on the type of industry that you're in. So your mileage might vary depending on the category of small business that you're in terms of the types of credit card fees and rates that you might get. This is not just unique to Square. This is unique, this is the same exact situation that you may face across all the different companies here in today's video. So do bear that in mind when you're getting started or getting set up, is that depending on the industry you're in, you may or may not have the same publicly stated rates. Or if you have a high volume, you might even be able to get a high volume based discount as well if you are processing large, overall number of transactions in your business when you're looking at the different types of software to get set up with. Now, taking a look at Square, again, like I said, they do have a free version. And in terms of the actual processing fees, as you can see here, if you are manually entering and keying in customer card details, it is a higher per transaction fee rate at that 3.5. versus if someone is tapping it or even an online purchase, it is going to be a lower rate. Just this a lot of times has to do with risk of fraud, risk of just general safety. So when you're manually entering in card details, again, it is a little bit of a higher percentage fee because of the risk that the payment processor does take on from manual entries. It is slightly cheaper actually with even invoices. So do just bear that in mind as well when you're taking a look at all the different processing fees, is the way that that payment is processed can also vary depending on the fees. Now, again, these are the fees that are accurate as the making of today's video. Again, all those are subject to change. Be sure to check out the company's specific pricing pages. This goes for Square. This goes for all the other ones we're going to be going through in today's video as well. But I did kind of want to just give a little bit of those disclaimers here right out the gate to help you understand better when you're selecting the different types of companies, or really when you're looking at what might be best. Now, in terms of what Square might be best for, honestly, they're pretty good for most industries. The only downside, one of the main downsides, is you don't really have a whole lot of flexibility when you're looking at maybe utilizing other software in combination with Square, just because Square is kind of like a little bit of a closed loop ecosystem. Everything is kind of just within that Square ecosystem. So if you're looking at other things to add on, it's all within the Square side of things, even Square Payments. So you are a little bit, tied to Square if you do decide to go with them for your business. But again, if you're looking at doing manual entry, they do have a pretty easy system and setup. And it can be cost effective as well, depending on the industry that you're in. Again, those are like the public rates that most people will be getting, but it does vary and depend depending on the total number of volume and the type of category that you're in. So just keep that in mind that it might change over time. Moving in at number 2, we have Hellsim. Now, again, like I said before, links are available down below in the video description if you do want to check out any of these companies mentioned here in today's video, including Square and Hellsim as well as the other companies we're going to be getting through in just a moment. Now, Hellsim is also available to get started for free. They do offer point of sale hardware as well as the ability to just key in those entries and process those payments. Now, you can opt to either purchase some of their point of sale hardware, or you can also just go in and utilize the virtual terminal setup that Hellsim does have as well in order to accept payments. As you can see, they even have the virtual terminal to charge clients online. So this is a way to, do it without the need of any type of hardware. So if you don't want to spend the money on point of sale hardware, you do have that ability with Hellsim to use the virtual terminal setup, set up like a simple invoice, and then charge the card or bank. So you have the ability to process both credit card and bank as well. So you do get a very different options there. If you have a bank payment or a credit card payment, you do the same thing with Square as well in terms of bank payment or credit card payment. Honestly, a lot of the companies do offer both. So, as you can see here, you can charge transactions, directly from your laptop or tablet. You don't necessarily need a whole website set up. Like, you don't need an entire e-commerce platform built out or all the products and services listed. You can just go in and charge it directly. So you can come up with custom rates, which, depending on what your business or industry is, it could be pretty easy for you. In that case, if you just want to be like, okay, I set up the invoice, that's how much it's going to be. And, or you could just set up the direct charge payment link and customers can just pay you directly based on the amount that you set for it. So you don't necessarily have to have things preconceived or pre-created. That's sort of the benefit and why a lot of people do like virtual terminals. It's because it is pretty seamless. You don't really need a whole lot of setup. And you can take, payment details directly, online or even over the phone as well. So that's one of the other perks with Hellsim, is being able to just easily set that up. As you can see here, you can set it up as like an invoice, a statement, a quote, and be able to charge customers just right on the fly and just make things a lot, quicker and easier. In terms of the pricing with Hellsim, now they do have a bit of a varied pricing structure depending on the rates. So they do have some of the cheapest rates in the industry depending on your overall sales volume. So that can vary the rates as well. As you can see here, based on the slider, you do also just publicly charge or show their margin with the interchange fee. And that does vary depending on if it's in person, keyed in or online, ACH, as well. So it does, you can also even pass the fees on to your customers. This can be quite a nice benefit and perk and reason for some people to even just go with Hellsim in the first place, is because you can actually get, quote unquote, free credit card processing by then just passing those fees directly onto your customers, which can be nice because I know a lot of people don't really understand that it does actually cost businesses money to process payments, whether it be credit cards, ACH, keyed in, online, it all varies. So one way is to just create like a surcharge or convenience fee, which can be a way to just make it very transparent that, like, hey, if you want to go with a certain credit card, especially like Amex, that charges the highest fees in the business, you're going to pay for that because that's what they charge to be able to offer the reward system with their credit cards that they do. So the money has to come from somewhere. So just that's another nice perk, at least, and one of the pros to Hellsim is that they do have that option where you can pass on the fees. They're available in the US and Canada as well. So do bear that in mind. In terms of if you want to set up processing transactions, Hellsim is one of the cheapest in the business. So it just does depend on the average cards that you're getting, because Amex is more expensive here with Hellsim than it is with Square. Square just charges a singular fee, so they don't really vary it. So as you can see, they all cost the same rate, whereas with Hellsim, you can get a cheaper rate with MasterCard, Visa, and Discover versus Amex, but it's not a flat fee. So maybe you just tell customers, hey, just don't pay with Amex, and then you can save money on the MasterCard, Visa, and Discover, because that's sort of subsidized here with Square. So just bear that in mind. You can create little custom things with customers just to tell them directly if you do want to save money on that as well. If you are keying it in, manually, it can be a little bit more expensive, or you could just send your customers the link and they can pay you directly through that like virtual terminal, again, without the need for the physical point of sale system. Moving on, next in this list, we have Toast. Now, Toast is specifically catered around restaurants. So if you're not in the restaurant business, feel free to continue, maybe look at other companies in this list, but I did figure that it was worth mentioning Toast if you are in the restaurant industry, restaurant business, because they can be a really good option for restaurants or hotels, pizzerias, dining, lounges, things like that, because they do offer restaurant specific software, and you can also process the payments directly through their platform. So it could be a good option for you. Again, they are one of the better options for restaurants because they are just completely catered to restaurants, versus whereas Square and even Helsum as well, like you could use them. It might not be exactly what you need when it comes to restaurant specific software. Square does have more of a catering to restaurant specific software, but really more so for like smaller restaurants, whereas Toast can kind of scale up a little bit better than Square when it comes to the restaurant business. So in terms of their overall pricing, you can get a free demo with them as well, but they do have a free starter kit. It does depend on the contract and setup that you do decide to go with them. If you need payroll and all these other kind of add-ons or things that they do have. So do bear that in mind in terms of the overall cost of getting set up with them. But you can utilize, their terminal setup to do online ordering, which is pretty nice, to be able to save time on like those manual physical transactions with the actual point of sale systems. So again, if you're in restaurants, Toast could be a good option for you, worth taking a look at. They do, again, have a free demo as well. Again, links are down below in the video description. Moving on, next we have PayPal. Now, this is more specifically PayPal for Business, or even their Zettle program, where you can use their point of sale hardware. You can also just set up invoices directly as well on their business platform. So you can also use them, if you want to use them even for connecting to your online store. You could set them up and connect to like a Shopify account or a Wix or whatever your online store setup is for your sort of like online shopping system. Or if you just want to use them for processing invoices, processing payments, it can be also really easy just to create a payment link with their invoicing setup. So that's another way that you can go about doing things if you are just setting things up. Now, again, this is for PayPal for Business. Do want to just clarify there, because some people have a personal account. For PayPal, you do need a business account, so you will have to make sure that you actually do make that switch. It is a more recent switch that PayPal has made, where you do have to decide like, hey, I am setting this up as an actual business account. That's so that they can verify your identity, verify your actual information, so that they can get the processing rates, accordingly, depending on the industry that you're in. Now, one of the nice perks to PayPal and why I do include them in a lot of the lists is they are very good for international people. So again, a lot of the other companies kind of cater more to like the US, Canada, or even, the UK or Europe, whereas, PayPal, on the other hand, caters a lot more globally. So they're more of a global payments provider, which is really nice for people in maybe smaller countries, or if you have a lot of customers from other countries as well. They're very good with the exchange rates and setting that up. It just makes it really easy. It's not necessarily, the easiest process in terms of, the actual cost of those payments can be a little bit higher with PayPal, the actual transaction cost. But you'd rather be able to accept the payment, period, than not to be able to accept the payment at all. So it's kind of a trade-off there. Like, you'd rather at least be able to accept the payment from a customer, especially if they're in a more, I don't know, more country that's maybe not necessarily in the big main set of countries that are most popular for processing payments, or maybe if you yourself, even the business owner, are located in a country that's not serviced by Helsum, Square, Toast, or some of the other companies. That's one thing that is nice about PayPal is they are just a lot more global of a payment provider. So they do have more flexible options for people when it comes to the currency conversions, when it comes to accepting payments from other countries. They just have a lot more countries available in their overall payments network. So keep that in mind. They still do take on certain levels of risk with certain country payments or, certain industries. So, not everybody will have the same exact experience with PayPal. I get there's a lot of negative flack about PayPal. Just depends on the industry, the country you're in, but they do service a lot more countries, have a lot more availability than a lot of the other companies that are popularly promoted or talked about. So that's why I'm including them here in this list. I've used them myself as well, which can be very good for global situations. Again, accepting payments from a multitude of other countries that you typically wouldn't necessarily see supported in other companies when it comes to the payments network side of things. So that's why I included PayPal as well. Your mileage may vary with PayPal as well. It does just depend on, what's available for you. But they do have a pretty easy setup, and you can process those payments, and people can even pay you directly through PayPal or even with a credit card as well. So you do have kind of that flexibility too. If people, maybe your customers already use PayPal, they can also just pay with PayPal, which is kind of cool. Moving on, next in this list, we have Stripe. Now, Stripe is probably one of the best enterprise level solutions in this list. They do also have options for small business, but I did want to include them because they do have one of the most popular just payment processing platforms out of really even most of the credit card processing companies here in today's video. Stripe is hands down one of the most popular when it comes to processing payments, and do have a lot of different options when it comes to setting up like a virtual terminal, setting up payments, setting up invoicing, or even connecting directly to an online store setup. One of the nice things with Stripe is that it can be very simple to get set up, and they do have a lot of flexibility when it comes to accepting payments from customers. You can also even set up recurring billing with them as well. So you can set up recurring payments and revenue for your business. So it is really nice. They do also have some additional features for if you're into coding side of things that you can set up in your business or on your payments platform. They just have a lot more flexibility when it comes to payments and setting things up when it comes to all the different types of payment products that they do have. I'm not going to be going super in depth in this video going over everything that Stripe has to offer. But when it comes to online payments, getting payments set up through Stripe can be pretty simple. You can create like scan and pay setups, lots of different like UI, UX setups, pre-built forms as well. So you can set up a pretty easy checkout system. They do also offer a lot of different options when it comes to accepting payments in your business, or even just a simple checkout link. So you don't necessarily need an entire website or anything when it comes to getting payments with Stripe. The other nice thing about Stripe as well is they are also a pretty global business. So again, similar to PayPal, they do have options for a lot of other different types of countries when it comes to accepting payments. You can also do card payments or ACH payments as well. Through Stripe, again, the pricing does vary depending on whether or not it is keyed in or standard. Like they do have the standard charge as well as volume-based discounts, country-specific rates as well. So they are pretty flexible in that case. So pretty similar to PayPal, but it's obviously 135 plus different currencies that they do support. So they are a good global payments option when it comes to accepting payments and setting up the terminal setup. Again, if you just want a payment link or an invoice or something simple. Moving on, next in this list. Oh, and I did want to also mention Stripe does have point of sale hardware, but it is a lot less dynamic than maybe some of the other point of sale companies mentioned in this list, like Toast for restaurants or even Square for retail, or honestly even Helsum for retail as well. PayPal does also have point of sale hardware too. Just figured I would mention that as well. But again, it's not necessarily as customized around a certain industry like Toast is customized, and where Square sort of has more custom solutions for certain types of industries. as well. Moving on, last but not least, we do have Clover. Now, Clover is built around their point of sale systems. They're built around restaurants primarily, and they do also have contracts as well. But Clover still is one of the popular platforms for their long-term contracts because they kind of lump everything together. So, if you want those other employee management software, inventory tracking, all those kind of things, they kind of lump everything together. And they do have a pretty good card rate for processing payments. You can also set up a virtual terminal setup through them to accept those payments on the Clover network. So you're sort of setting yourself up in a little bit of a long-term contract typically with them. And they are, catered to restaurants, retail, as well as service-based businesses. But, you are kind of locking yourself in with them. So that is how you're able to get some cheaper rates. So do just bear that in mind. I get that the lack of flexibility is maybe a turnoff for some people with Clover. But if you are getting ready to gear up for the long term with them, it could be a good option that you might end up coming out ahead with their overall pricing structure and the way that they operate. So again, Clover is another popular company. They do have custom solutions for certain industries. Again, as you can see here, you can pay as little as that 2.3%, depending on your industry, the volume-based discounts. A lot of things do vary. That's why I would recommend, contacting the sales team for Clover or even the sales team for a lot of these other different companies mentioned if you're not just going with a very simple setup. If you want the simplest setup, honestly, in my opinion, you're probably best off going with either Stripe or PayPal just to process payments. If you do want like a more point of sale setup, and honestly, Hellsim is a pretty simple setup too. Theirs is really pretty easy. But if you do need, and Square can be pretty easy too. They do have a bit more add-ons. I'll say that the most involved setups would be like Toast or Clover, just because they do have a bit more, software that you kind of need to get started with them. And when you're getting signed up with, a Clover or a Toast, whereas, honestly, Square, Hellsim, PayPal, and Stripe do have kind of a minimum viable, just like base entry setup where it's very easy. You just sign up and boom, you can start accepting payments like almost as quickly as even that day. So those are a bit easier to get started with, and then you can decide if you want to add on some of the other software later on. You don't necessarily have to do that. You can just quickly, easily accept payments right out the gate with those platforms. Again, it just depends on what might be best for you in your business. So that pretty much wraps up this video here today of some of the best virtual terminals, credit card processing, payments, and payments platforms and companies that allow you to process those payments both virtually or keying them in as well, or just for your customers to do it or for you to do it as well. So again, guys, I hope you found this video helpful. If you do want to check out any of the companies mentioned here in today's video, there will be links linked down below in the video description. If you found this video helpful or enjoyed it, then be sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button as well, and notification bell so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Anyway, guys, that's all for today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.